I'm a world history teacher, and I teach at Piedmont Hills High School at the Eastside Union High School District. Piedmont Hills High School is in San Jose, and we have about 2,200 students on campus. During my fellowship with Ericsson over the summer, I was able to participate with the design thinking team on interviews and also on the storytelling and synthesis and brainstorming sessions that they held for the project that they were working on. It's a project that is completely out of my discipline. It's about technology and cell phones and other computer networking issues. What I learned through the process was actually the interviewing skills, the brainstorming skills, the critical thinking skills.
In my job and my partner Hans, we use design thinking as a method for solving problems with other organizations within Ericsson. We usually start a project by interviewing a number of different people and really build empathy with them and really understand what their needs are. And then we identify some of the best problems that come out of those needs and do, first of all, brainstorming to come up with a lot of ways that we could solve that. Instead of one way, come up with hundreds of ways that you could solve that problem. And then refine those down to the best ones. And then rapidly test those with really rapid prototypes to see which of these is the best solutions and evolve them quickly and move them forward.
Design thinking does have a particular look. One of the most valuable tools, I guess, is the Post-it note. It's a kind of a democratic thought-sharing tool. So I have a Post-it note and my colleagues have Post-it notes, and we can each put an idea up there. You can change your mind, it's very disposable. You can move things around, and therefore you can name things. You can then talk about, well, what is this group of thoughts or observations about, and you can give it a name. And then you can cluster the names.
I wanted to incorporate design thinking into a history lesson for students to really critically think about how to think about history and not just be taught the textbook definition of what happened during an event, but actually go out and investigate it for themselves. So it's all about this design thinking process.
The lesson that we've been doing over the past week or two is called design thinking, which is basically a method of problem solving.
In class today, we were trying to solve the problem of how to end World War II with Japan. Everyone got together and interviewed very different types of people, like a very macro demographic.
One group had somebody with a Japanese descent. Another one was a U.S. history teacher. My group was the Japanese descent person. Her name was Marissa, and we just asked her questions about like how she felt about the war, what her thoughts were on the bomb, what could have happened that wouldn't have been so violent.
Today we were storytelling. We were telling about how we had like all this information and about this one individual we interviewed. As a team, we got different answers.
The whiteboard was used to put down the ideas and saying them out loud to your group, so they actually you're on the same page.
It was after we had all of our ideas listed that we would organize them into groups. The groups that came out most in our Post-it notes was the idea that we should just demonstrate how powerful the atomic bomb was and not really bomb them, and that it was the wrong thing to do to drop both of them.
In part of the exercise today, I was really trying to help the students, first of all, understand what they were doing and why. And I did that by asking questions, like they were writing a quote of what a person had said. And I asked them, well, did you ask why they said that? What was underneath? And that made them step back and think for a bit and understand the kind of the motivations of the person. And that was really the insights that they needed to learn.
They seem a little bit more excited about learning history because they're actually going out there to ask people questions, to do interviews, and then they get to come back to the classroom and share what they've learned.
What I learned is kind of basic communication skills and what it's like to work in a group, and I really learned my interview skills.
I've learned a lot about physics. I didn't expect to learn so much, but I've learned how the bombs were made, what was used, and also different opinions, not necessarily what I was thinking, but what other people were thinking too.
I learned communication and use a lot of empathy. We try to feel for the person. I mean, he said he was an infantry, and it was kind of weird because he wanted the bomb so that we wouldn't send American soldiers to invade. So I guess we try to feel for him. And
I was noticing the the collaborative dynamic, that some students were clearly aware enough of what was going on. They were stepping outside it and kind of guiding it. Are we doing the right thing? You do this while I do this. So they're kind of almost leadership skills were emerging in these collaborations. Even the quieter students were writing things down and offering things up. So there was good engagement. And I guess what I was beginning to see was sort of critical history. When I learnt history, it was dates, names and dates, and how well you remembered them, and very little discussion.
And at the end of this class session, every single student that I was interacting with was thinking to themselves, what if I had to make that decision? And they had all this wealth of data now, because they had all this interview information and all this data coming from all the people they interviewed. And now they're really critically thinking. And what a deep question. And so I was really proud of it. It's amazing the depth and the growth that these students are getting through just asking themselves this question.
I definitely made it very different from how I would normally teach this unit. And normally I would probably just lecture, show some video clips, talk about, different things that occurred to make the decision to end the war with Japan. And instead of doing it that way this time, I decided to have the students actually go out and investigate on their own.
The kind of thinking and collaboration that I'm seeing, and that I saw in the classroom this morning, is much more about what work will be. The future of work is highly collaborative, very multidisciplinary, and the people who will thrive in that are the people who are comfortable with collaborating. The skills that are learnt there are the skills needed for our future.